happened on Liebig in Holland, we were putting a gas regulator in, and we're dealing with not only the fact that it was a tight sleeve to work with, we also dealt with the polar vortex, and by seeing today, it's coming back, right? You know, the weather's coming. So we're dealing with snow, we're dealing with the elements, and then that delays progress. So to that effect, we are working as diligently as possible to replace as much gas main as possible to address these gas leaks. We're also converting to gas. We're by law, we're trying to convert from oil 2 and 4 to a natural heat, make this a cleaner city to live in. So it's with the plan 2030, and we're addressing those issues. So in a lot of your buildings, I believe in Bronx Park East, we're doing conversions as well, from oil heat to gas heat. So that's also part of the reason why also we're putting this piping to accommodate these buildings that are converting from oil to gas, as it is for city law for them to do so. Any questions thus far? I mean, I don't want to. I want to make this as not as droning as possible, but I want to make this effective. Yes, sir.
If a person has a gas stove and it has a gas leak, and it's red tape on it as per the firefighter department request, what regulations are there in place for the landlord to efficiently remove the stove and reinforce the stove into the new gas line? The gas line has been red tape and shut off because of the leak. Do you work with that? Could I have a business card to contact your office regarding that?
Sure. Just on general, if there is a gas leak, we're just going to shut it down. It's not something that we can.
No, I understand.
His telephone number's on the agenda, Mark.
Yeah, okay.
So, but we could talk offline about it.
Okay.
Rolando,
Sure.
if I may, two-part question. A lot of our community members have had the economy and things like that have had issues in keeping on time. Can you let them know about the options that they have to catch up with their bills?
The level payment, right. So basically, the level payment plan pretty much averages out your bills throughout the year. You're paying a consistent rate. There's estimated by your usage of the previous year, and it definitely helps you out during the more expensive times to really average out your bills. I would always say to people, if you're having trouble paying your bills, do not ignore it. We work, especially in the senior population, just with anyone who had a problem. We definitely try to address it, so therefore we can accommodate you in terms of payment plan. We work together, and obviously we had special cases, as we've had before, dealing with HRA, and we've been trying to, we added extensions, we take everything case by case basis. But the fact of the matter is that please, we understand everyone goes through a hard time, and we're trying to be accommodating as possible, especially for somebody first time going through something like this. We try to be sensitive. Call us up 1-800-75-CON-ED. If you call your electeds, or electeds are working with us as well on that issue.
And the second part would be when you came to our office to discuss after post-Sandy, a lot of our parts of our catchment area were affected with electricity. How did it put in the new snap?
Right. So we also, part of this $1 billion initiative, for storm hardening, we call it, for our service territory. Obviously, there's a lot of overhead lines in this district, and so therefore we've tried to strengthen our poles. Our poles are able to withstand, not like hurricane gale force winds, but obviously they're strong enough to withstand a storm, that equivalent of the size of a Sandy. And we're strengthening our lines, our pole lines, but also the home to the house. It will just snap off, so it'll create a safety measure. So therefore, it's not live wires. So that's all part of a great initiative. There's more on it on our website. We've done things, and especially in our low-lying areas. The Bronx actually, for my folks in other regions in public affairs, they envy me because the fact of the matter is, it's just like this is such a resilient, borough. We really got up there. We got a hard hit, no doubt about it. But the fact of the matter is, it's just like it bounced back faster than most. And what happens at times, especially say Pelham Parkway, I know I'm going out of our district here, but say, where Seminole, and, in that area there, right behind the
Indian Village.
Right, Indian Village. That is in an isolated network. So it's great because it's an isolated community, right? So it's nice brick homes. But the fact of the matter is, it's just like in order to run relays, it was taking a longer time because the way that we come back from a storm in case of an outage is that we go from larger networks to get everyone back up, as many people back up, to the smaller networks. So unfortunately, that was one of the longest, I think it was about like 8-9 days. But we've actually made improvements in that regard. We've cut trees in the area, so some people don't like trees being cut, but the trees are the enemies of our lines, of so are squirrels. So we love the squirrels, but at least with the trees, we could trim them. We could trim them. We can, we do it in we have an arborist on staff, so we do it as humanely as possible to not try to, almost disfigure these trees, but to make it so therefore our lines can coexist with the trees. So, one thing I want to touch on, we're coming into the heating season. We just came off a pretty, mild summer per se. It was like a weather pattern, so it was, very timid, but I can't say the same for the winter. And I know that, bills are going to rise, because the heating is coming on. And there's ways that we could effectuate, really smart energy consumption. And I have this 100-point energy savings plans that you guys can keep throughout the year, which basically gives you free tips to do at home. But for example, in the summer, we tell you to lower your shades throughout the day, so therefore, you don't have the heat coming in, so therefore it creates a cooling effect inside your home. In the winter, adversely, we basically tell you to put your shades up, so therefore the sun comes in. So when you come home, you put your shades down, it actually creates almost a warming effect inside your apartments. So, so there's lots of tips like that. And I'll tell you one thing, a lot of people say, I can't believe that I'm paying so much more now, than I did, say, before I got a DVR or something like that. But something that I found out is that your DVR, you leave it on throughout the day, you're recording your favorite shows, everything else, that runs as much electricity as a small-scale refrigerator. Wow. So I know that people don't want to unplug them, but also the phantom juice, I do it, a lot of people do it. They leave their chargers on all day, so just plug in when they come home. That thing is sucking juice. Anything that's plugged in is sucking juice no matter what. So we always tell people unplug all these items, from the outlet. As many that you can. You can't unplug the refrigerator, but those that you can, just unplug them because they're just going to be drawing energy and needlessly.
Those of you that have surge protectors or those strips, you can have whatever you prioritize. If it's like, I don't have cable, but if I did, I would have the DVR on. I would have that plugged into the main. But everything else that's not necessary, chargers and all the different things you have for your computers, you put it on the strip and you just turn off the strip before you go. You come back, you turn back the strip. It works great.
So if you leave a charger plugged in, but you don't have a phone
It
hooked up to
charges.
it,
It charges
still drawing
electricity.
Still draws.
It draws electricity.
It's called phantom juicing. It basically just starts drawing without any source.
Is that the same thing with the plugins, the
Oh, yeah.
air wicks and all of that?
Yep.
And my son's nightlight, I turn it
Nightlight.
off, but it's still in there.
Take it off the plug.
Well, a big source of that are televisions with the auto on. That is a big source of phantom loss of power.
Right.
If
Right.
it's plugged in, it has a little red light on it, you are paying for that.
Forget about it having a plasma. Plasma almost has twice as an LED television. That's why you don't see that many plasmas.
Anyone else have any questions?
Does Con Ed have plans for solar, for putting more solar into the system?
Obviously, we're involved in terms of finding distributed generation. We're the government put out a plan called REV, which is basically reigniting energy values, right? And they basically trying to rethink the way that we're using electricity, and we're also thinking about energy consumption. So we're trying to get to a place where we become as solar efficient as possible. But it's slow start because there is an out for solar that's not inexpensive. There is the cost rate. So therefore you have to defer the costs in time. So we do work with a lot of solar companies. We have contractors to set up. There is a lot of information on our website. And the coolest website possible, and it's really unique to us in the city. It's called New York City Solar Map, nycsolarmap.com. You could actually type in your address, and you can click on your building or your apartment, your house, on the map, and it'll tell you your savings if you switch to solar.
Is there any incentives? Is there any tax deductions you could have?
I mean, you would have to peruse the NYSERDA site for that, so therefore for credits per se. I know that the state set up a solar bank where, in order to galvanize, usage from commercial companies and other entities to take out loans, there is a state program for that.
One of our members are asking about services available for people that have machines to maintain life.
Well, those are life-sustaining equipment. If you're not already on record with Con Ed, I would suggest that you call as soon as you get home. So therefore, we register you. So therefore, in case of emergencies, in case of outages, right there, 75 Con Ed, 1-800, and they'll put you on a list. So therefore, in case of outages, in case that you need to actually identify who our life-sustaining equipment customers are, you're there, you're identified. And also in case of, say, we're talking about the hardship, and that's also taken into account too, because you would not cut off someone with life-sustaining equipment.
What exactly is NYSERDA?
NYSERDA is a state energy company. They're it's statewide, and they're actually almost like a hand of the governor's office. The Public Service Commission also plays a big part in the agency of NYSERDA, and NYSERDA would also help. They're really the spearhead of solar across the state. So I definitely will look into their website to see what incentives.
That's right. I know you mentioned NYSERDA almost, because I know this thing is energy and environmental. He's getting into more environmental benefits. So I just wanted to know who they were.
Sure. They come out to a lot of events that we do, and obviously they're talking about energy savings as well. We work together with them on myriad of projects, but obviously on the solar front, they're the leaders. And in terms of incentives, they're the ones who are pushing forward. You'll just make sure to get you ready to do this.
A lot of people call our offices about shared meters. Can you explain to them about shared meters and situations like that?
Well, shared metering is something that we definitely look into, because people would say, I moved into this apartment and my landlord, put me up on a Con Ed account, and right now I don't use that much electricity, and I feel that I'm being taken advantage of. And so what happens is at times, you believe, people actually tie in into your account, and they start drawing, and therefore when you start getting the bill, you start seeing a bill that basically almost looks like a double consumption. So we try to address those issues. We come out we bring our meter readers out to address that issue, and if necessary, cut the meter and address the issue. And actually, we report it, because that's stuff. For more times than not, it's not. A lot of cases, there could be a legitimate case of shared metering, but then it could be a case that your consumption is just unnaturally high, and it's just your usage. But we just have to go on a case-by-case basis and investigate.
Sorry, maybe that was a question. I kind of have half a question, if people in the audience could maybe continue, because I've gotten a lot of people ask me about the meter reading dates. They come out, they read the meter, but then they don't come out for another 2 months. So the month after, say they read the meter in November, but then they don't read it in December, so they get an estimated date, and they're for some reason that their bill balloons. I wanted to know, does anyone have particular questions about
No,
that?
that's the same thing.
Same thing. Now, is there are there particular areas of the Bronx or particular buildings that get monthly meter readings or bi-monthly?
Well, the good news is, and the Bronx is the first borough after Westchester to have it, which is basically the automated meter readers, which basically means it takes away the fact of a meter reader having to come to your house and or your apartment, and get access. And if they don't have the access, then they ask to make the bill, right? And then they make the adjustment accordingly on the next bill, so on the next bill cycle. With automated meter readers, pretty much, almost like what DP does with the water reader, we set up a sensor that, would just read, it's not harmful rays or anything else, it's almost as control. And they come in their car and they basically start taking the meter readings all around the Bronx, East Bronx, right here, right line with the Bronx River, was the first borough to have automated meter readers installed. We're almost completely done with the whole entire borough, so therefore it will eliminate the estimated readings because we'll just get your reading whether or not we have access or not. So if your building hasn't converted to AMRs, with highly doubtful because I think we're pretty much saturated this whole area, definitely we can always talk offline and I can definitely give you
And
access.
the EM readings are completely safe. They're just like using your garage openers or your remote controls. So it's on that level. So nothing harmful about it.
One more question. As you may know, there's a lot of digging going on. I guess the lines on the sidewalk, yellow lines, blue lines. Now, is it only replacement of gas lines, or is it installation of new gas lines where they weren't already?
Well, I'll give you an example. Sometimes we do have our engineers go with schematics and say, okay, this is where we are seeing older lines that need to be replaced, or for those areas that are with underground facilities, electric. Then if we have to make a reinforcements, then we'll go in and we'll make it, get the permits and open up the street. But at times, and this happened on Hunt Avenue, if you remember, this was the year before last, the city sewer system pretty much collapsed in that block. I think it was like right off Morris Park. And, what? No, this was not storm related, this was just the sewer. The city went in there pretty much from the whole entire Hunt Point block, Hunt Avenue block, opened up the street. So, in courtesy to us, they would say, hey, Con Ed, you want to check your lines, make sure everything is fine. So we go in there and we found that, wow, these pipes can be replaced. So we went in there and we replaced gas. Then they asked the electric guys because they said, maybe something doesn't look around here, maybe we could actually do some reinforcement. So our electric engineers came in and they actually saw, yes, we could replace our lines on the ground here. So they came in. So the city opened up the street, but we went in there and we actually, reinforced our lines. So that has happened on occasion too. So, yeah. So then we closed the street up. I mean, it took about 3 months, and it got into the news because they saw the street opening and they hadn't seen it closed. The street was almost like shut down for like about 3 months. But at the end of the day, it's a reinforced system, closed up sewer, gas, and electric, on that for decades to come. So 3 months of inconvenience, decades of fucking. Also, when the city has work to do, Pelham Parkway. Pelham Parkway, a lot of people saw Con Ed trucks and they started calling us saying, why are you digging the street? Well, it was the city's, work that had to be, facilitated. So our lines have to move. So what do? Once the city comes in there with the contractor and opens the street, we're coming in there afterwards and we're moving our lines to accommodate street work. So that's also another project that Con Ed's involved with, all throughout the city. Happened only in Dolan Park, it happens here, it happens pretty much all on our service territory.
Pat, you got a question?
Yes. I'm sorry, can I? Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. Now, my concern is, number one, that means you laid off people in Con Ed. Obviously, if you don't have meter readers, that's the first thing that I think of, that layoffs.
I just want to say that's absolutely categorically not true.
Oh, that's
We actually transferred our meter readers into customer service jobs. We have 14,000 strong company workforce. So we basically absorbed everyone into the system. You remember we used to have payment centers all over.
Right.
And even with the payment center at Fordham Road, a lot of those folks were absorbed into other places in the company. I have to say, it's a great company to work for, and there's a lot of benefits for the company, tuition, for those who work in the company. And what I would say to people, if you consider a career with Con Ed, go on our website. We don't do job fairs anymore, but on coned.com, on the careers page, there's a plethora of jobs that we're seeking. Yeah, customer service, and engineering, of course, but there's a full gamut of different types of careers, for a lot of different occupations that we have. But all those folks were transferred in there, and everything that we've done it in conjunction and working together with delivery.
Coach, with also, I get a bill every month. I was on every 2 months, and then all of a sudden I got a bill every 1 month. Why is that?
You weren't billed monthly.
Now, recently I have, but for years I was getting a bill every 2 months.
It could be the meter reading. I mean, I can take your address and we can talk.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want to address your situation without.
Okay.
Why it's 2 months.
Thank you, Mr. Inventor. This is great. When you're touching on the replacement of the 110-year-old pipes, what's going on Arnell Avenue, and I'm amazed and awed that where the pipes were down, say, 10 feet, they are now going down 15, 20 feet. I'm amazed that they're going down to a whole new level. I see that they're building concrete.
Is this Arno and Story? Is this
Arno and Howard, but it's going.
All right.
By Kruger.
Oh, by Kruger? Yes, we're installing a gas regulator there. So it's this massive system that's going to be basically supplying for all the high pressure gas, for all the conversions that are going to go on for all these buildings. It's going to help you solve that. So in a span of a small area, Holland and Leipzig and Arnau, we're having gas regulator stations.
You know how deep it goes. It goes twice as deep as it had been.
As long as we don't affect any other facility, as far down as it can go, we can get to it.
It's down at bedrock. They're going through bedrock.
We want to basically make sure it's secured and it's not interrupted to any other facility.
For another 125 years.
Yeah, well, it's an old city, so so our facilities are there, and like I said, it's going to take 40 years at a cost of $40 billion. So it's a big, huge undertaking, and we're doing 60 miles a year.
Thank you. 2 more questions for Alana. Francis, can you
My
speak up?
father passed away in February, 92 years old. And my mother, she's almost 90. She waits outside every month for the contact. And they either walk past her and said it's not their route, or they don't show up at all. And she waits there 100 degree weather in the summer, in winter, temperature, and they never come. And then she gets warning letters that they can't get access. I don't understand these contact reading, man.
Right. That shouldn't happen because, like I was mentioning before, we switched to the automated meter reader, so you should have the meter changed. So I don't know if they needed access to change the meter, but why don't you give me your address after the meeting, and then I'll look into that situation why they're not having access, and see how we could arrange something for them to get access.
Thank you, Francis.
Any more questions? I have one short question. I don't know if it pertains to Con Ed, but now that it is cold weather, the electronic heaters, I've noticed fire department always says, don't use extension cords. Okay, fine. But the electronic heater comes with like a 4-foot wire. So if your bed's in the middle of the room, you have no choice but to use an extension cord. Do you know if Con Ed can have any effect on maybe federal legislation mandating things? You were looking at me like I have
No.
mandating that the electric manufacturer.
Don't you want to be talking bad? No, but we could definitely, if you write me a nice letter like the way you always do, on extension cord, or the length of the cord, then perhaps, something that we can, maybe even join where utilities are. I mean, it's also as a safety issue too.
What about
I mean,
the
What?
Well, you can't use electronic heaters with any sort of extension, even a short cord.
It has to be directly plugged in.
Well, the heavy duty shorter ones, right?
But the thing is, you need to be mindful because these things generate heat, and obviously, if it's left untouched or becomes into contact with something, it could cause a fire. So, we just want to be mindful of folks, just be careful when having.
A lot of the new heaters that you can get at your local stores have timers. You should look for those that have timers so that you can have it on a couple, try not to have it on all the way through the night, but just have it on as you're going to sleep and as you're waking up. So you're mindful of that. But also they do sell in Lowe's and in what's the other place? No, yeah, Home Depot is in the borough.
Yes, but not Lowe's.
No, sorry, Home Depot has shorter, heavy duty, those orange extensions. I don't know if they're the ones that are.
I would say just follow the manufacturer's guidance on this, on any points. If it says, plug it in directly, plug it in directly. It's the same thing with unfortunately, Christmas lights, A lot of people want to get more strings and they're attaching more things. You got to read the manufacturers on the tree, because if you're overloading it, then you're almost putting in danger your house, and if you're in an apartment, all your neighbors as well. So.
Is it appropriate to change the outlets in your apartment?
Depends what.
My building is very old, and my husband's sort of a nut about changing the outlets. Every 10 years he changes the outlets. But is that appropriate for a landlord to do? Like if tenants move, to change the outlets so that it's safer, to check the wiring in the walls?
This is, it would be a landlord-tenant issue if it was a house rule issue.
No, I mean, it's a safety.
Changing just an outlet, fine. But if you're messing with the electric system underneath, then you're probably going to need a licensed electrician maybe set to work in your house. So.
All right.
Just got a point in New York City. I don't know about Westchester. Any gas has to be a licensed plumber. And electricity has to be a licensed electrician.
Right.
Change anything. You want to repairs.
Talk about the apartment buildings or
any place in New York City.
How do you ask them for their license? Like when they come
You ask them, their license. I want to see a
show it
license.
to you?
They have to.
What does it say in the license?
A licensed electrician or a licensed plumber.
The
I had a licensed electrician for mine. Or a union.
Hold on, let Joe answer. What does it say exactly on the ID?
Just like I had a license when I was a welder. You get a license from the Department of Building. Everybody has it, usually with their fixture on it. Plumbing, a lot of times, the whole company is underneath one master plumbing license. But an electrician is allowed to have so many people working too. But in New York City, doing gas or electric, it's illegal to do anything unless you're a licensed person by the city of New York.
So it'll say Department of Building license.
Yes.
And I live in a co-op, and you can't really touch anything unless you have a licensed electrician. And also, you got to also clear maintenance for them to come and do any type of paperwork. So, it's a landlord-tenant issue, in terms of.
I just want to know if it was a safer thing to do to change the outlets, because the wires in the wall are really old.
Right, but you
Like I put in
can't
a
change
ceiling
them.
fan.
I would go with a licensed plumber.
Electrician.
No, plumber. The whole.
All right.